Paul, welcome to the podcast. Do you mind giving us a quick rundown and overview of your background and what you guys are doing at CyberPulse?
Yeah. Hey, Alex. Paul Friend, I've, I guess, been in the technology industry for most of my life, all of my working life, in fact, going on 30 years. Currently the Chief Evangelist and Director of Cyber Advisory for CyberPulse. So what we do at CyberPulse is help organizations to streamline and automate their compliance as it aligns to cybersecurity. So we do ISO, NIST, PCI DSS, all of the major standards, SOC 2 and so forth. And we find that a lot of organizations are struggling or have a very ad hoc approach to compliance, and we're trying to change that. In addition, we have an advisory arm, and we work with customers in terms of building out their cybersecurity programs. So we don't just check if you comply, but we can actually help you build out your program. And we've got various areas that we help organizations streamline, automate, and move from a point in time kind of approach to more of a proactive, continual approach to improving security, but also in running your everyday operations. So that's our niche, I guess. We are trying to be as focused as possible. And having been in the industry for quite a long time, all of the founders, we've spotted a few trends within our clients, that we're trying to help with, trying to solve problems.
Nice. So in terms of, in simple sense, CyberPulse, what do you guys do and who do you help?
We really help organizations that have a lot of compliance mandates. So our ideal client is an organization that we can help. And usually we find that those are organizations, whether it be a startup, mid-market or enterprise organization, it's a client that needs to achieve some sort of compliance and is looking or is looking to build a cybersecurity program. So all of these compliance frameworks, the intent behind them really is to help customers or help organizations have a framework to align with. ISO is probably the most commonly followed cybersecurity standard, and that just gives you a framework with the intention of making your organization more secure. So compliance doesn't equal security, but it's a good start.
Yeah, totally. So in terms of, you're one of the directors at CyberPulse. Cybersecurity is a massive industry and it's growing rapidly. Where do you see some of the biggest shifts, moving forward, especially around AI coming into play as well? What are some of the key trends that you're noticing?
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons we are helping customers to automate and streamline their security practices and control sets. It's because the attacks of the future will be and are already at machine speed. Exploits are being developed very quickly. In the past, it would take multiple weeks for a new 0-day or a new vulnerability that's been found to be exploited. Now it's taking minutes because the threat actors are smart and they are using every single technology they can, including artificial intelligence, to attack organizations very quickly and to bypass their defenses. Similarly, we have to take the same approach, use artificial intelligence to protect ourselves, but also make sure that we are using artificial intelligence in an ethical way and correctly. So artificial intelligence within your organization can actually be used to compromise your network. Your own artificial intelligence, like Copilot, for example, could actually be used to do lateral movement within your own organization. So the safe use of your own AI is a great start. Using technologies with machine learning and artificial intelligence are are going to become necessary. These technologies, what technology really allows you to do is do things faster than a human could, possibly do them. And artificial intelligence just accelerates that and gives you additional, I guess, speed.
Totally rapidly speeds up everything exponentially. In terms of, obviously, you guys are a growing company. I know you've been there for a bit under a year now. So what are some of the main priorities that you're focused on, both yourself and as a company?
Yeah, I think we've got an ethos of partnership, and that's for us our most important element within the business. Partnership with our staff, partnership with our vendors, and obviously with our clients. So really being a good partner to all of those individuals within our group or our trusted tribe, to help them with their problems and really to be good to each other. So partnership is very important to us, because without good partnerships, businesses don't scale quickly, and they cannot function properly. So we're trying to be a very good partner in every aspect, whether it be internal or external. Obviously, we try to remain curious. Just because we've been around for a long time doesn't mean that we know everything. I always use the white belt mentality, always have a white belt mindset. Don't think you know everything. Question the status quo. How can things be done differently? And that's where some of our major innovations come from. Just looking at that problem and saying, if I didn't know anything, what are the things I would be asking here? And that's how we innovate within the market, and constantly improving. So if you're not constantly improving, you will lose your competitive edge. So if you want to innovate, you have to stay ahead. So whatever you create, iteratively improve, on a daily basis if possible.
Yeah, 100%. That's good advice. And in terms of obviously sales and taking that partnership approach, how do you approach the sales process to getting new clients, customers, and forming new partnerships? What's your kind of strategy there for converting them?
We've traditionally been a word of mouth organization, so organizations that work with us will refer us into similar organizations. The legal industry is a great example of that. We've got a large number of the top legal firms actually work with us because there's a trusted group of security leaders and they talk to each other. So that's been a very good approach. Now, in terms of scale, will that be the ideal approach? Probably not. So we have a blend of word of mouth, which we love. Obviously, our clients loving us and us being good partners nets us new business. But then we also follow pretty modern approaches in terms of reaching out proactively based on our network. So that's another thing you develop over time, is a good network on LinkedIn and so forth. So one of our greatest assets is just the people that we know. So rather than do the old traditional cold calling, we have programs to develop or to stimulate new conversations on LinkedIn. We use a technology that automates quite a bit of our LinkedIn work, and that's been paying dividends in terms of new conversations and so on. Where we're very delivery focused and outcome focused, and that partnership approach, that takes a lot of time. Actually, we're in meetings all the time with either clients or vendors or so on, or developing something new with a new technology we're bringing into market. So it gets quite busy, and sometimes that reduces your ability to actually develop new business. So we don't want our very good network to go to waste. So we've automated quite a bit of the kind of outreach and just staying front of mind. I wouldn't consider ourselves like marketing gurus by any stretch of the imagination, but we're doing the basics quite well. Word of mouth and referrals are always going to be your highest value highest value new opportunities from my experience, and then of course reaching out to organizations or people within your existing network that know who you are, that are more likely to speak to you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's not about doing fancy stuff, but really just nailing the basics. And if you've got word of mouth and you've got a really, really good base to then build upon. In terms of automating your LinkedIn, what have you found most useful? Is there any specific tool that you use to do that or to manage that?
Yeah, we use a tool called Dripify. So it automates a sequencing of messages and so on. So I found myself, like, I'm quite busy and I get a lot of LinkedIn messages, but by the second one I'll usually answer if it's sensible. And I've seen the results of that for ourselves as well. We've tried various approaches to the, I want to say, net new business kind of development, and this has been one of the most successful, to be honest. And that's predicated on the fact that I've got a really, really good network on LinkedIn that I've been kind of curating over the last 10 years in Australia. So that really helps. I think once you are already connected, you're in the same groups and there's commonality in multiple areas, then you're more likely to get a response to a message, as long as it resonates. So we are very targeted as well in terms of what we want to talk about. Obviously leaning on our expertise, like the areas where we know we have a competitive edge, and we lean into those areas, because that's the major value that we drive in businesses, understanding that we have a unique set of skills in an area and really kind of doubling down on that area, and it comes down to that compliance and security automation, and moving customers from a point-in-time approach to a kind of a ongoing or continual kind of approach to both compliance and security.
In terms of company, industries that you work with and that you perform really well in, what sort of industries do you work with, and then also the types of company sizes that you work with and typically see needing your help?
Yeah. Usually I don't want to say, but commonly organizations, the larger they are, the more compliance work they would have, the more complexity, and obviously the more interested they would have in our advanced services, which are the services that we're most interested in delivering. Saying that, we've got a lot of organizations that we've worked with from startup phase right to scale up phase. So it really doesn't matter about the size. It's just, does the customer actually have a problem that we can help solve, and usually the customers that have a compliance and a security problem, we can do a pretty good job. We work in, we've got a lot of legal firms that work with us. Law firms are seeking to comply because their customers demand compliance, and it's a business requirement to comply for them. As I say, startups, they all want an ISO certification because they are launching a new product, and the bank that they're providing it to has asked them for ISO certification. So it's a cost of doing business for them. And then we've got quite an eclectic client base, really. We've got clean energy providers. We work with one of the biggest waste management organizations in the world. We've got clients that have got sites all over the US and New Zealand and Australia. So it's pretty interesting, the client set that we do have. It really comes down to those, what are the problems that they have that we could potentially solve, which is really why organizations work with you. It's not just to buy a new tool, or also it really comes down to, what problems are we trying to solve, whether it be a product or service. What are we trying to solve for?
Yeah, totally. So when you're reaching out to new people and trying to start a conversation, what have you found being the most effective way to get that conversation? Has it been mentioning, client results or some clients that you work with, or what's the kind of approach been there?
Well, know your audience. Okay, the first thing is know your audience. Understand what their likely problems are, because if you go for a data governance, send a message to a data governance person, and you use a cybersecurity approach, you probably will not get an outcome, or at best case, if they're feeling friendly on the day, they'll refer you to the right person. So know your audience. I think it comes down to audience and what their unique challenges are. Obviously, you want some form of social proof in terms of your approach. Hey, we work with similar organizations. We don't generally, the one thing being security practitioners, we don't usually share names of our clients. We do organize reference calls, like we've arranged quite a few of those, where they can actually approach one of our existing clients and have a phone call and validate our level of service. But we try not to use customer names just for security reasons. Having said that, industry and customer size and the kinds of problems we solved, and kind of more white paper type stuff, like case study kind of information, where we said, well, we've helped one organization move their team away from doing 1,200 hours of audit work to doing 400 with our service, and this is how we save them money, and these are the things that we've done for them. So that's quite successful. Understanding who you're talking to and what their challenges are, like why would they want to speak to you? What can you help them with? Who else have you helped in a similar way? And also, just I find that overly complicated and formal messaging, sometimes people are just people, even at the highest level, like the global CISOs that we've worked with and so on, they're just people. So you can approach them like a human. Obviously not too casual, but Australians are pretty friendly, and you can approach them just as a human and say, hey, this is what we do and who we help. We'd love to have a chat, if you have time. And then, have a thick skin, because it's all statistics at the end of the day. You're not going to speak to everybody you reach out to. But there will be people that at that point are interested in something that you provide, and those are the people you end up speaking to.
Yeah, 100%. I like that approach, Paul. And in terms of the next year or two for CyberPulse, what are your growth plans? What are you looking to do with the company, and is there any key priorities that you're looking at?
Yeah, obviously growth is the key priority for us. We want to grow, but we want to have fun at the same time. So we don't want to grow at the expense of quality either. So we want to improve our quality, if anything. And we've got a growth plan that's very ambitious. We want to double our turnover in the next 12 months. We are actually quite well on our way. So we've put in quite a few new initiatives, created a number of new services, and those are starting to pick up. We've also invested quite a lot of time in developing new partnerships. So both on the client side, but also on the vendor side, we have some exciting new vendors that we are bringing in this year. They will be CyberPulse exclusive vendors. So we're building ourselves a little bit of exclusivity in certain areas, and they will all be intended, and everybody is like being curated to fit into our program of helping customers to automate, streamline, and improve their cybersecurity, within their organizations. So we have 2 or 3 that we pretty much have at the final stage, and we'll probably be launching within the next quarter or so.
Awesome. Sounds pretty exciting. And obviously, as a result of that revenue growth, are you having to expand your team and put some key hires in place, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, look, we take that on an ad hoc basis. So our approach has always been to try to use the absolute best resource for the job at hand. Now, in certain realms, that means that we partner instead of employ. There are some of our global partnerships where, our global partnership actually means that we have access to 130 or 140 resources in a very specific realm, so that we can, once again, scale very quickly for clients and help them achieve things that local organizations can't. So that's where that partnership approach comes in. Our hiring process would really be to hire at the really high end of the spectrum in terms of skill and experience, and to do engineering and like SOC analysis and things like that through partnerships. So we're focusing on advisory and high level skills. So the expertise are very important to us. We don't have anybody we'd consider engineering level skill in the organization. We have architect level skill, which is kind of a few steps up. So we're trying to take care of the core, highly important areas and then partner for the rest. So that we can scale quickly, because there's too many products, to be honest. When you're chasing a new product or trying to deploy products without experience, that's where you put your customers at risk, and that goes against how we work. So we use the absolute best resources for each job, which at some points mean we actually have to outsource and we have to share professional services profits. But that's fine by us, because we get a really good outcome for the client.
Amazing, Paul. Yeah, it's super interesting how you use that partnership to expand as you are. I haven't heard too many people doing that approach, so it's pretty good to hear. Look, mate, if people want to get
sorry, go ahead.
What's that? You go.
No, I said my philosophy is that there's enough for everybody, and that if you have good partnerships, they lead to more business for everybody, and overall everybody wins. Trying to build every capacity within your own business as a smaller business, is very hard. I always use the analogy of, we're not the infantry, we're the Navy SEALs. If you want a job done and you need somebody to do it correctly and quickly, yes, we will come in and do it. We might call in the Marines to back us up, but that's kind of our approach to organizations.
Yeah, it's a great approach. If people want to get in touch with you, obviously to talk about cybersecurity and how you might be able to help them, where can they find you?
Pretty easy to find me on LinkedIn. I don't have a very common name, so LinkedIn is probably where you want to reach out to me. If you want to email me, I guess putting myself in danger, putting my email address on a podcast, paul@cyberpulse.com.au. And yeah, I don't think I'll put my mobile on a podcast, but yeah, reach out to me on email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat. It might be for a partnership. We actually work with a lot of other cyber providers to provide them our unique set of skills, so it's not all about just working with clients. We've got a number of VCISOs that actually consult into the market that use our services as well. So quite an open approach. I want to say we're very open in terms of how we work with organizations and other providers.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Have a good one.